Vagner Santana, que é investigador e Master Inventor de IBM Research e professor colaborador da Universidade Federal do ABC, Brasil. É doutor e magister em informática, que é na carreira de ciência da computação, pela Universidade Estadual de Campinas, Brasil. Licenciado em informática pela Universidade Presbiteriana Mackenzie, muito gosto, que é a minha universidade onde trabalho. Foi webmaster em Folha de São Paulo e professor invitado do programa de pós-grado em Mackenzie. É apaixonado por la investigação e la análisis de dados resultantes de la interação do usuário com os sistemas informáticos, sempre enfocado em personalizar as interfaces de usuário. Vagner, muito gosto de tenerte acá hoy e la palabra es tuya. Gracias.
Thanks for the introduction. And I'm, as Raquel mentioned, I will stick with the English as well. But I understand quite well Spanish, but I really have some difficulties when I try to learn. And usually, in my head is in the same region as that Italian is. So for me, it's quite challenging to learn Spanish while Italian speaker. But okay, I will talk today about responsible inclusive tech, which is the name of the group I'm part of here at IBM Research. And I'll cover a few aspects. First, I'll present a bit about the motivation of the work that we do, and also try to give you all some glimpse about the aspects we are trying to cover. During my talk, I'm kind of hybrid between data scientists and HCI researchers. So I will present some of the aspects related to machine learning, and also the more human aspects of the technology. And these three first cases are related to different situations where systems were created, technology was created using AI. And I'll try to talk about some of the unintended consequences and how it could be, how we could rethink this kind of approach and to prevent this kind of impact, unintended impacts. And then I will talk about the group, the work that we are doing, the Responsible Inclusive Technology Group, and something, an overview about the approach and the framework we are working on, and also talk about a couple of tools. And then at the end, try to present a call to action that we most all consider every time to how can we change what is out there, right? So moving on to the cases. This first case is about using AI to assign credit. And the idea is to use AI to assign credit limits and speed up approval process. I brought here a couple of screenshots of the Apple Card and how we generated a really generated a buzz at the time. So it was in 2019. And then what was really what called everyone's attention was that Steve Wozniak, which is one of co-founders of Apple, he shares a credit card with his wife, and the limit that his wife got was really smaller than his. So that, and we can see here how he's criticizing the whole thing and how it was done, how the algorithm was created as a black box and just gathering information and just assigning credit. And this makes us think that, okay, the expected result was to increase credit and automate credit assessment. However, in the middle of this process, they got lower control about the model and how it was working. And it brought existing disparities and inequalities. And this, when we talk about machine learning and we only get data from the world and how it's working right now, and just get blindly and just feed into a machine learning model, probably we will just replicate what is out there. And that is something that we are trying to make people think, and to be accountable for what they are feeding into these models. And well, how we can rethink this approach? First, balance groups. If we are talking about thinking credit, we should have different groups and balance those groups. Probably they just use a bunch of data without taking too much care about these subgroups. The attributes they used, okay, being male or female, it really affects your finance healthy, right? And it's all a matter of how much you make and how much you spend, right? Why using these kind of attributes? And that's something that as a data scientist, we are always eager to use as much attributes as we have, right? But that needs to change. We need to think about it and use it in a way that we can explain why we are using every single attribute, right? And also think about how they can impact different people, right? So this is the first case, just to give you a glimpse of what is happening and what we can do. There's a second interesting case. It's about recruitment. And basically, in this case, they used data from to AI to select CVs for IT positions. What's the problem? They just got a bunch of CVs of people that were recruited, were selected, and trained the models. But what happened is that for IT careers, most of these CVs were from men. And the algorithm learned to punish CVs with terms related to CVs from women. And that's a disparity that was created without control. And again, the expected result was to select qualified professionals and speed up the whole hiring process. However, this penalization to terms presenting in women's CVs created a disparity and kind of embedded a bias and people that created these models were not aware, probably. And this is something that I want to emphasize here. Sometimes we are not doing that on purpose, but we need to be accountable for that. So, and that's a big difference, right? We need to think about impact of the technology we are creating. And this is changing right now. And as AI becomes to permeate more and more technologies and more the processes around us, this it's fundamental to have in our discussions. And for this specific case, how we could rethink this approach? Again, balance groups. And also, given that in this case, they use natural language processing, it's hard to deal with attributes and different aspects, but there's a way of doing that. We can evaluate the models, not only for the major group, we can divide for different groups, right? And this way, we can see any existing bias. Okay, this group is performing well for men. What about for women? If they did this kind of evaluation back then, probably they would got some of that. And well, you can see I just got a few screenshots from piece of news, and it's possible to see that there's a lot out there. Again, and there's also things related to organ allocation, and then we are starting to talk about really critical systems, right? And this AI. This allocation was based on how much people spend on healthcare, and basically this creates a disparity. So poor people will not receive the organ in this case, right? Just skip and go to some of the approach that we are following. So the mission of our group is to make technology proactively accountable, inclusive, and centered around meaningful societal impact. This covers some of the aspects I brought already. And we are doing this by creating framework, tools, and methods, and helping people to become aware of larger contexts, different ways of interacting with technology, how people is going to interact with the technology during the creation, during the use, and I'll get into details about this differentiation. Understand and balance individual and business and societal impacts, and also think about present and past and future. Sometimes when we talk about technology, it's important to consider these historical contexts and think about the present and how it will be used in the future. And also to think about long-term change. Well, about the framework we are creating, we are thinking about this theoretical framework as a different way of looking at technology, so a different lens to see technology. And in here we are thinking about this prism to represent how people usually think as technology being one thing, and we are trying to break that in multiple pieces and analyze in different ways. So when we consider it as the input for our framework, we're thinking about business problem, historical context of that technology, the communities involved, and also about the context of creation and context of use. Because think about IBM, for instance. We are a B2B company, right? For most of our products, but we also need to be aware and accountable for the context of use. So we are selling a technology to a company, and then this company will use with the customers, with end users. And we need, as a B2B company, to consider that. And that's something that we're trying to highlight and present to our researchers. And what we envision as a system is something that is accountable, inclusive, meaningful, bringing meaningful societal impact, and thinking about this future and uncertainty, to think about possibilities and try to give guardrails of the use of that technology. And the three sides of these framework are composed by self, which we see as one of the main forces, which is you or your small team working on that technology. We have also, so we have partners, clients, competitors. For universities, we have our department. It's basically the force that makes the machine running, right? That keeps the machine running. So we are talking about universities, scholarships. We need to cope with that force as well. And last but not least, we have these communities, the spectators, and people that are impacted even indirectly by the technology we are creating. Sometimes they are not even end users, but they are impacted at the end. This is an example of one of the tools we are bringing and recommending some teams on using. For those familiar with organizational semiotics, there is a strong influence here, and we also try to use these forces in these concentric circles in a way of trying to bring and to highlight that everything's connected, right? If we do something on a technology that is close to the operation here at the center, it might impact business and might impact the society in different communities, even indirectly. And I emphasize this because this is one of the differentiators of this framework we are proposing. And also we are trying to suggest people to use this as an exercise of identifying stakeholders at the beginning of projects, research projects, or even when they are using agile methods, planning, scenario mapping, or design thinking activities, trying to identify the stakeholders and also who or what is impacted. Right? And I'm meaning what, because we have situations that we are talking about the environment or a certain community that is composed by different aspects of products and people. So we have different kinds of entities impacted by different technologies, and we can discuss about the examples at the end if anyone wants to deep dive into one of them. And we have also been working on a card tool that is basically a tool with questions that help teams to perform a critical reflection. Is an exercise to reflect on what they are doing. And we have different phases of projects. We have different kinds of card suits in which we talk about the history of the technology or the stakeholders, impacts and methods, and so on. And we have this tool was created using our framework. So we are talking about balancing the three forces I presented before. We have the self, the business, and the society as well. This tool is an ongoing exercise. We are exploring multiple ways of using that. We use that with different teams here in IBM, and we're exploring as well how to make it as accessible as possible to people with different kinds of abilities. And moving forward, the call to action, and just to end my talk today. Well, the first is to use only the required data. So if you are talking about, you're about to create a system or a machine learning model or something that is about finance, probably you should use only attributes related to finance or to the finance attributes or making money and spending money, right? And I brought this tweet here at the right-hand side that says that it's a really simple joke that illustrates a bit about what I'm emphasizing. And the joke says the following: a machine learning algorithm walks into a bar. The bartender asks, "What you have?" And the algorithm says, "What's everyone else having?" And this means the algorithm will only consider what is in the data. So if we are talking about data that has some form of disparity, biased, or any kind of way of dividing groups of people based on gender, religion, culture, socioeconomic status, address, zip code, or something that we need to stop. And that goes to the second point I wanted to emphasize here in this call to action, is to be critic about what you're doing, right? Are you using are you thinking about the impacts? Are you using the right data set, the right way of cleaning this data set, of groupings, of sampling this data set when we are training really large machine learning models using really large data sets? And also accept other perspectives. And by these, I mean, we should have teams that are plural, that have people from multiple disciplines, origins, and cultures and ideas. And this helps a lot in this creation of technology, because while we are discussing and providing our own views from our history, from our culture, our experience, then we are covering a lot of those indirect impacts that sometimes they are harder to see when people are from the same background creating a certain technology. And as a everyday exercise, always think about who or what is impacted by the technology you're creating or the research you are developing. And how do I include the diverse perspectives? You can think about this aspect as thinking about bringing diverse perspectives to your team, and also thinking about involving communities impacted by that technology. And last but not least, how do I mitigate negative outcomes? And sometimes we can think about, as I mentioned, that our framework tries to cover the uncertainty in the future. And sometimes we have a hard time on identifying contexts of use that will happen 2 years from now, right? But we can think about trying to mitigate some of these outcomes, and it's our responsibility to think about it and make this exercise to try to mitigate even these aspects, and think that our technology sometimes it might be used in a different context that we envision. And what if used in a different way and for something that we consider bad, right? We must think about mitigating this as well up front. Oops, sorry. And that's it. Thank you again for having me. I hope that I brought some interesting information, especially for those that never thought about responsible inclusive technology and thinking about it in a responsible way. I stop here with the image from our prism and how we are trying to represent this theoretical framework. Thank you.